Luke Ellis here with ReVera Capital. As our thought leadership topic today, we're going to talk about the difference between a broker, an investment banker, and an M&A advisor. Personally, at our firm, we don't give a shit what you call us. To us, they all should do about the same thing, but we're going to walk through a little bit of the differences and I think what drives what we believe is better value in the investment banking M&A advisor type of service offering. So main differences between, say, a broker and an M&A advisor or investment banker are that most brokers will represent any deal that is $100,000 in total value or more. Typically are selling companies that are going to be in the range of, call it 100,000 to maybe 10 million. Your M&A advisor, investment banker, which to us are about the same until you get into the public market space as far as their roles and responsibilities, are typically going to be a little bit higher on that value spectrum, maybe call it a million or two on up to as high as $1 billion or several $1 billion depending on the size of the firm and the company. A couple things that we find that are different are that most brokers will represent just about any deal that's out there. From restaurants on down the line. They'll take on as many clients as they possibly can. Typically only get paid at the end of the transaction once it closes. One of the things that we've seen commonly with brokers, especially on the sell side, is that as soon as the LOI is drafted and negotiated, they tend to disappear and don't do much work after that point. Another thing with brokers is that they seem to be a little bit less sophisticated in how they can read accounting and manage the accounting side of things. For example, how do we properly calculate net working capital in a transaction? How to properly look at the balance sheet and the income statement and look for any concerns, problems, issues that may be within that company. And so they're really there to be just a connector in a lot of ways and more of a referral partner or a referral source for you to get you a buyer for your business. Those brokers will also usually typically list their businesses or their clients' businesses on all the websites out there that are available to source through, and then try to get as much transaction or as much action from those buyers as possible. They'll often run what's called an indication of interest process, which really is their way of trying to restrict that seller from having to talk to too many buyers until they get some kind of watered down version of a letter of intent outlining what that buyer may pay for the company and what terms they may provide. We find the IOI process to be almost a waste of time in a lot of instances because there's very little known about the company. If that broker has not put together a very good package on the data of the company, you may run into issues there. And so we typically try to skip that entire process by a few different things that we'll line out in a different video later on. When you start to move up that spectrum of service offering, and again, it's not much of a variance in price either. An M&A advisor or a banker are going to be much more focused on doing a lot more diligence on the company up front. Typically are going to be much more detailed in how they present the company. And then I think outside of that, one of the things at least we do here at ReVera Capital is we don't have to take a lot of our sell side deals public because we have such a big buyer pool of qualified buyers that would fit for that potential deal, that we can go out and essentially start a quieter bid process directly with our network. The other reason why we try to avoid the IOI process with our clients is that it's mainly a money-driven game. Hey, how much do you think you'll offer for this company? But when they don't have a lot of data and haven't even met the owner or really sat down and looked at anything other than the SIM or the fact sheet on the business, that offer or those numbers really to get the deal done are going to be irrelevant because they may not match up with banking. They may not match up with the terms that the seller's looking for once you get to the actual LOI process. On the other side of that too, most investment banks, M&A advisors are completely full service, and what I mean by that is that not only do they help source those buyers for a company, they'll help with the LOI process and helping to draft and negotiate that on behalf of the client. They'll assist with all of the due diligence, which typically is 30 to 60 days worth of data collection and working with the buyer to get them the right information so they can purchase the company. And then all the way through to the closing transaction. And then one thing that I know that we at least do here at ReVera Capital that I don't know many others do is we help post-acquisition to make sure that the transition of the business to the new buyer goes smoothly. And then on top of that too, one of the big things that we try to present to all of our clients and is our guarantee is that we drive 2 times our fees and value in the deal, so we'll make you as a seller at least twice what our fees are in value, or call us for a refund. We felt this was very important to add into our pricing model because when you think about it, you're paying us to deliver value versus just going to your attorney or your accountant to handle it. And ultimately, if hypothetically you paid ReVera Capital $300,000 for that transaction, we should make you at least an extra $1 million, $600,000 to $1 million. It's typically far higher than that. If you guys have any other questions over kind of the difference between a business broker, an M&A advisor, or a banker, feel free to reach out. We're happy to fill you in on anything there. And ultimately, we just want to make sure we're giving the best insight we can while you look at maybe making your first sale of your entire life.